Tonight, a Memorial Day weekend unlike any other in recent memory is underway. More beaches are open for the first time in months, though with strict social distancing requirements. The CDC now downplaying the risk of virus transmission through surfaces, but emphasizing the threat of person-to-person contact.
The major transmission source is airborne. It takes you back to wear a mask. Wear a mask.
Well, thanks so much, dude. I really appreciate you coming on, man. I mean, sincerely, I know you have a lot of other, YouTube videos and tutorials and things that you probably need to do. So thanks for giving me some time, man.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
So dude, before I get started, I have to say, like, in watching a lot of your YouTube videos, have you ever thought about doing like voiceovers or something? Like you have like a voiceover voice. I'm telling you, man.
Really?
Dude, 100%. I don't know if other people think this, but like, yeah, I've heard you before. And I was like, dude, that's a voice that I want to hear in like an RPG or something. Like 100%, dude.
I don't know. Like, it took me so fucking long to get, like, I'm sure it's the same for everyone, but like getting over that, the sound of your own voice. Like everyone hates their own voice.
Yeah.
But like, I get mixed comments from YouTube. Like some people are just like, oh, your voice is so soothing, I want to sleep. And then, but it's like some people say that in a good way, and some people say that in a bad way. So I just like,
right, yeah,
it's like your voice is so boring. But then other people are like, oh, it's so soothing. I'm just like,
no, it's great, man. You've got a, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a weird, like, homoerotic thing here, but yeah, dude, like you've got a good like raspy quality to it. Where I'm thinking to myself, if I'm playing a game, a fantasy-based RPG game in which there's a narrator or something, that's what I want. I want that. So I don't know, dude. Like if
my backup plan.
Well, like if Elon Musk ends up clouding the skies with all of his satellites and we can't take pictures anymore, maybe that's a plan B. But yeah, man. So how's it been going? Like, how's it going with the quarantine out there? You're in Wales, right?
Yeah, man. We're still in lockdown. It's got a bit crazy now because the UK is kind of split up for the first time in centuries, where England have like relaxed the lockdown, but like in Wales and Scotland, we're still in full lockdown.
Huh.
And trying to like keep the English out, basically.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting right now. But I've been okay, man. I'm quite lucky. I mean, I've got a house, I've got a garden. It could have been far, far worse. So I've just been chilling at home.
Yeah.
Doing things that you wouldn't have done for months, like the accounts.
Right.
Working on the book. And it's been all right, man.
Yeah. So you have it's an astrophotography book. I might have missed this in an update or something.
So I've been working on a book called Photographing the Night Sky. I haven't really been shouting about it much lately, but cracking on with it now. And dude, if it wasn't for Corona, it probably wouldn't be finished this year.
It's a good point.
It's been scheduled for like September, October. So that's been like a good silver lining.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I guess, take me through like the book. I mean, have you been kind of, I would imagine you've been pondering creating something like that for a long time. And so now it was just sort of like, all right, fuck it, let's go.
No, I mean, I've been working on it for about 2 years now. Which it's so funny. I mean, the publishing company were like, you've got a year to do this. And it's been like nearly 2.5 years now. Because I just keep like, there's so much I want to add. And it's like, so it's basically everything about photographing the night sky or landscape astrophotography. So wide angle photography.
Yeah.
Landscapes in the sky. But I kind of wanted it to be like the encyclopedia. Do you know what I mean? I wanted it to have everything in it to be like a reference for anything. So whenever somebody's like, ooh, this event is coming up, how am I going to photograph it? Or what gear do I need? Like, it'll be there in that book. So that's why I've been taking my sweet ass time on it, because I just want to make sure it's covered everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine that, like, once you sort of open the box, like once you write whatever, chapter 1 or the introduction or something, and you probably have all these moments of like, oh wait, I can talk about that. I didn't even think about it. And you just end up just snowballing the whole thing. Right.
Yeah. It's basically just start with like the contents of what you think is going to be in the book. And then that just like expands and like things just start adding in, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, there's so much to talk about, and there's so much like regurgitated information on the internet. Like you always tend to hear like the same like 8 things, and like I think once I kind of started to get past those like initial, like here are the 6 things that you have to do to shoot the Milky Way. You know, once it was like, okay, well I've been doing that, and these pictures are still kind of like they're not that good. And then you kind of move past it, and you realize like, man, there's so much more to it than just like the 500 rule and like all these sort of like cliche tips, which are like they only scratch the surface, you know?
Yeah, and so I've been really cautious about how to word everything, because you know you get people who are very technical, like engineers, and they love like the nitty gritty of the electronics and like the science behind noise. So I've sort of separated that chapter, and then when it gets to the photography side of things, you kind of explain it in a bit more of a easier to understand way. So that way, like the guys who like want the technical stuff can like deep dive into that chapter. Then the guys who are just there who just want like straightforward photography advice, it's just really easy to pick up and just, but yeah, trying to cover everything.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. I think there's a lot of like hobbies or even professions out there in which you do kind of have a split like populace of like the most techie, like I need to be as far into the weeds as I possibly can, even if it's totally trivial. And then you've got the other side, which is like, just tell me how to get an Instagram photo that will get 5,000 likes, and just I'll follow that, you know, step by step. So I've got to figure it'd be pretty difficult. Like Milky Way photography might be like the poster child for something like that, because you really do get like, I think a lot of people that are, again, like I saw this photo on Instagram. I mean, I'm probably more in this category. Like I saw this photo on Instagram at some point and I said, wow, I would love to be able to figure out how to do that. And that's kind of just this top level mentality, like top level down. And then I do think you have a lot of people that are so like smitten on, you know, I just want to talk about like ISO invariance and things like that. Like that's their thing. So it's got to be difficult to keep both of those things in mind. And like, how do I not exclude people?
It has been tough. And it's sort of just been sort of splitting sections up just to like, because you worry that the technical stuff will scare people away. And especially in astronomy, for somebody who's never done any astronomy, when they're trying to watch or listen to astronomers, it's like a completely different language, because there's words they've never heard before. They don't understand what the words mean. So you've got to be a bit cautious with the wording of everything. Yeah,
I bet. And at the same time, like I always feel like I feel like I know this more from listening to like tech reviews on like computer parts and things like that when I'm thinking about buying a new computer, is that you have that risk of like, if I'm maybe dumbing things down for the layman, I always pose the risk of like pissing off the techie person who's going to find one tiny little flawed section of what you say, which, and you know, maybe you knew that it wasn't quite correct, but you just referred to it in this way so that the average person would go, okay, fine, you know, but then they like rip you apart on, like, I'm sure you I get that kind of stuff on YouTube, I would think.
Of course, mate. I mean, they've probably been following you for ages and they haven't said anything, but when you say one thing that's like slightly wrong, man, you just can't wait to. But it's good, man. I mean, some people take criticism in different ways. It's nice to be called out just to make sure everything's good. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that like I've been thinking about this a little bit ever since Rogan got his like mega podcast deal, which maybe you've heard about, is how like, you know, I looked at, I watched the video the other day, the podcast that he did where at the very beginning, he sort of like addresses the camera with his eyes, which like he never does.
Right.
And it was like, hey, listen, guys, I'm going to be moving over to Spotify, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, I wonder what the like versus dislike count, you know, on a podcast like this is. Cause obviously a bunch of people are going to say whatever they're going to say. And I think there were like, you know, 7,000 dislikes on that particular one. And I was just thinking that must be such a weird thing to have that many people just feel like, fuck you, dude, you know, like just 7,000 people. But then I thought, well, I mean, there's like 100,000 people that liked it, you know?
Yeah.
I guess that's just how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, the internet's a weird place, man. There's some people that just don't like to see others succeed, and it's always the cause of sellout. And
Right.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I just try not to pay attention to the comments and the numbers too much.
I suppose you have to, dude. I mean, you've been doing this for a while. I mean, I was probably late to the party. I think I found out about you on YouTube, like, I don't know, maybe a little over a year ago, something like that.
Cool.
And then, and I had actually been thinking like, I should really, when I started doing this podcast, I was like thinking about I get people on based on the things that I like. It really is that simple. And so like astrophotography, time lapse, those have kind of been like the two biggest things. And so I was kind of like, I should see if maybe Alyn would want to do this. And then I had, Matt Van de Putte on, and he was kind of like, he sort of validated the theory. He was like, you know what, you should see if Alyn wants to do it. And I was like, oh dude, I was actually considering, asking him anyway. So that's
sweet.
That's pretty cool. But yeah, how long have you been at this in terms of like, not just photography specifically, but like an educator, I guess, on
Feigs that's
stuff.
a big word. To be honest, not very long. I mean, I came out of university with an engineering degree, and I was working as an engineer. And then I bought my first camera 5 years ago, almost to the day. It was May 2015. So yeah, literally exactly 5 years ago, I bought my first camera, which was like a Canon 100D little DSLR.
Yeah.
And they all just kind of snowballed from there. I mean, I started taking photos and sharing them online. And I think, it was about 3 years after I bought the camera that I quit my job as an engineer and went full time with the photography because the workshops were going pretty well, making a bit of money. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna chase this passion because I love doing it so much.
Yeah.
And like, there's never a day when I wake up and I'm like, I'm really excited to go to work. So I was like, fuck this. I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. It was a now or never moment. I was like, if I don't get out of this comfort zone now and just try it, I'll never do it. So I just sort of quit the job and went full time with the photography. I think YouTube has probably been about 3.5 years, maybe. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I started that because I found the A7S II was just incredible at filming in low light. And I just remember seeing like the Milky Way in real-time video for the first time ever. And I was like, what? This is like a little consumer camera. Like, how is this even possible?
Right.
And I was just like, oh my God, I really want to make videos under the stars, just to film the adventures and maybe share some tips about the photography side of things, but also to share the failures. Because, there's a lot of times you go out and there's stuff that's worth sharing, but you can't because you didn't get a good image.
Yeah.
But there's still a funny story you want to tell, or an interesting story, or like a lesson that was learned that you want to sort of portray. So that was the main reason behind it. And for a few years, I only really posted vlogs of my adventures, but slowly, the way YouTube works is that people want either gear reviews or tutorials.
Right.
So I've been doing a lot of that lately, obviously with the lockdown.
Yeah.
Just doing little tutorials, stuff that people can do at home. And it's been going really well.
I wonder, like, the gear review thing is so true. And sometimes I wonder, like, how do guys like compete in the gear review section? Because it just seems like, you already know, like, there's whatever 5 to 10, accounts on YouTube where it's like they're going to do the gear review and they've got whatever 2 million subscribers or something.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever wonder, like, how am I going to compete in this particular thing? Or is it kind of more like I have people that are so dedicated specifically to what I do that it's still going to be totally relevant?
I think when it comes to reviews, I mean, I always review a lens from the perspective of an astrophotographer.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't care about autofocus. I don't care about that sort of stuff. I care about what the stars look like in the corner of the frame. I care about how strong the vignetting is at f1.4 or f2 or f2.8. So, I mean, my approach to reviewing a lens is completely different to anyone else anyway.
Yeah. But
I think when there's no competition in making a review video, I think, because like people, I mean, it's not a cheap hobby, man. Lenses and things are so expensive that people want every ounce of assurance that they're going to get value for their money. or there's a really expensive lens and they're really worried about spending that much money. They need to convince themselves. They just watch it, every YouTube video, every review video you can possibly find.
Yeah.
So there's not really any competition, and people always have different opinions as well. So it's good to have more reviewers and more opinions and that kind of thing. But yeah, review videos, man, when you look at the stats on YouTube, they just don't die because people are always searching for that lens or something. Whereas like with vlogs, just like they die instantly. The view count just sort of levels off.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because you're right. The vlog is just, do I like this person or do I not like that person? And I would imagine if they don't know who you are, why am I even gonna?
And how would they end up there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the more reason that somebody like a Casey Neistat is just so ridiculous, is the fact that it's like his whole thing is just like, here's what I did today. And, it's just like, it's somehow like 10 million people are like, yep, like I'm in. Let's click. Yeah. It's so weird.
His storytelling is so good, man. I mean, he can make a story out of such a mundane day.
True.
You have to respect that he did that every damn day.
I know. For like, I think that's another 2 years or something.
Yeah. But I think that's another thing on YouTube as well, is consistency. Well, in general, any social media, consistency is a good thing for followers because people know they can rely on you for something every day or every week. If that makes sense.
No, it does. In fact, I'm always kind of struggling with my own like Instagram and even this.
I'm terrible.
What you mean? It like knowing if you should post or what do you mean terrible?
I think I'm terrible at being consistent. So I mean, it's obvious that consistency works, and you kind of get like sucked into sort of trying to be consistent or posting like every Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. But I found when I tried to do that, I ended up posting stuff that I wasn't proud of, just to meet that consistency. And I was like, oh, and I put something out and I'd be like, what did I put that out for? It's crap. It's really shit. And so I just sort of completely stopped worrying about being consistent. Like if I haven't got something good, I'm not going to post it. People can wait. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So
it's reassuring to hear you say that, given that you have a much larger audience than myself, and I have those thoughts all the time. I'm constantly like, is maybe the consistency an enemy of perfection or something like that? Not to say that perfection is necessarily achievable, but like, I've always been after this as an answer. It's just like, yeah, I have a bunch of shitty photos, but like, I mean, it's like, I always feel like people will judge you based on your worst work a lot more than they'll judge you based on your best work. So like, if I see an amazing photo and it's like the most recent photo and I go, wow, that's a sick shot, sick edit, whatever, sick tones, bro. Then, I browse, and I'm guilty of this. And if I feel like not in the near like past from that shot, I see a bunch of like mediocre shots, I'm kind of going, people, maybe, even a clock is right twice a day or whatever, like I'm
maybe he was lucky with that one. Yeah.
And I have to assume a lot of other people think that. So I'm always so hesitant to want to post things if I'm just kind of like, it's okay, but is it, is it really anything special? Like, no. And then I just wonder, like, how many shots do I have, which I should just delete because I'm being judged for them, So yeah, I don't know. But what I was going to say and compliment you on is the fact that like your YouTube channel, you've been doing it for a while now. Like it just must be hard to do like the same like genre of stuff all the time. I feel like that would be really difficult for me, but you're just all in on it. And it's cool to see that you're constantly like introducing new concepts and whatnot. Like you keep it fresh somehow.
Yeah. I mean, people are quite surprised at how much goes on in the night sky, because obviously most photographers don't have a background in astronomy and they kind of just think, oh, stars and Milky Way and the moon. But there's so much that happens and so much that goes on, and so much you can do with such a basic camera as well, which is great. I suppose one good thing about it is that astrophotography or the night sky is seasonal as much as the Earth is seasonal. So, you go through summer when you've got possibilities of bioluminescent plankton, or you've got Milky Way core season happening, Perseids meteor shower, and then you go into autumn time and you've got things like the zodiacal light, nights getting darker, and so the seasonal aspect keeps it kind of fresh as well, which is quite nice, because the Milky Way goes away and then you miss it, but then the next year you sort of come back with a sort of reset, maybe a different approach, maybe different gear, and it just keeps it fresh all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Even like in the wintertime, you still have the Milky Way. It's just not like the cliche thing that you always see on the internet, but you still have it. So yeah, that's a good point. Is the night sky pretty good where you're at in Wales, or what's it like out there?
Wales is really good. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty small country, but we've got dark skies in pretty much every corner of the country, and the middle is pretty damn dark. It's just the weather.
But just rainy, drizzly.
Yeah, I mean, it's notorious for rain.
Right. So the sky's pretty good, but it has to not be cloudy.
Yeah. Which it can get frustrating. I do question myself. I'm like, why did I choose a profession like this while I live in this country?
Dude, I feel this exact same way. Not that it's specifically my profession, but it's probably my biggest interest. That and time lapse, and of course night sky time lapses. But yeah, it's like I live in Philadelphia. I don't know if you know where Philly is, but not far from New York. And I always feel that way. I'm just like, man, why is it that my hobbies never like align with like where I live? It's even like landscape photography. It's like there's not really much here where I'm at. There's a guy who lives in New Jersey. I think he probably lives maybe 45 minutes or so from me. Maybe you've seen him on social media or whatever, Milky Way Mike. And, yeah. So he's kind of similar, type of stuff that you do. And he's in New Jersey. And I'm always thinking like, dude, it's just so funny. It's like, bro, just like move to Arizona. Like you could probably do this more successfully or something, but it's like, that's where you live. What are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it as well. I've been traveling so much the past couple of years that I haven't even been thinking about changing base, but now I've sort of been stuck here for so long. I'm just like, shall I move somewhere? Shall I just like go to La Palma for a year or something? I'm like really starting to think about it now. Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. I mean, I obviously don't know you well enough to give you a recommendation based on your personality or anything, but that would be pretty sweet. I mean, and if you've got the income based on all the stuff that you do to do it, I mean, what would keep you here? Just the usual friends and family and stuff?
In Wales?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I've been thinking about that quite a lot. It's not something I really want to get into on this podcast, but there's not a lot keeping me here, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I could be a free bird quite easily right now. Yeah, I got friends and family, but I've traveled so much. I used to live in Turkey, so I always know that I can come back at any point.
Yeah.
Whenever you do come back, nothing has changed.
Right.
Everyone's still doing the same stuff, and it's still the same old small town. So it's
right.
Yeah, I know I can always come back.
Right. And sometimes that's I've always thought like when I come back from a trip, because I get really addicted when I go on trips, especially like third world countries and stuff. There's just something about the like off the beaten path thing where when I go, it's like on the flight back, I'm just like this longing look out the window, like, what the fuck am I leaving for? Like what, it's like, I get like, it's like seriously, like I get sad.
Yeah, I know the feeling, man. I feel like I'll be getting better with it as time goes by, but.
Right. Like the older you get or something.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the one saving grace I think about when you come home is like, there is kind of a nice feeling about nothing has changed, right? Like that's like probably the definition of home is you just go back and you're like, okay, there's the fucking tree and there's whatever. And here's my dog and like all that stuff where you just kind of, it is nice to get reacclimated to that. Like I think probably the best way to be is somewhere in the middle. Like you hear about like touring bands that like all they did was just tour for like 5 years and like they get home and they're like, I'd never want to fucking do that again. Like they're so sick of doing it. And I would imagine that's like the polar opposite of just being at home all the time. So I don't know. Yeah, it's tough, but it would be pretty sick. And you would be able to get so much cool content if you just lived in a place where like every month, just banger after banger of, photo.
Yeah, I feel like I need it. I need to make up for all these months of just being stuck indoors.
Right. Would you go to Turkey, or is that too off the beaten path to live there?
No, I did. I lived there for a couple of years actually. When I was working as an engineer.
Oh, cool.
And I've got a lot of good friends, so I can see the family out there. I've been going there for like over 10 years, man. I speak the language now.
No shit.
Yeah, so I'd be worried about living in Turkey because I know I'd just be lazy when it comes to work-wise because I'd just be hanging out with mates and just
right
going to the beach and drink. So yeah, I don't know. I really want to live in somewhere like La Palma. I really want to learn Spanish now. And I think La Palma would be the perfect place because really, I haven't met a single person who speaks really good English. Mm-hmm. Some of them have a little bit, but most of them don't speak any English at all. So that's great for like really throwing yourself in there and forcing you into learning. And obviously on La Palma, you can shoot like 90% of the nights because they've got the cloud inversion where you could just drive above the clouds.
Right.
You could just shoot every night.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Huh. And plus you get all the cool city lights and the Milky Way stuff, which is always a badass shot. Yep. I've never been able to get something like that, but I always think that, I mean, cloud inversion for any photographer is always like the dream. It's always like, holy shit. Man.
Yeah. I'm also thinking about doing a long trip in the US as well. There's a real part of me that just wants to just get a one-way flight and just go to the West Coast and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the US is awesome. Obviously a lot of great spots for astro. Have you done any astro here before?
I haven't even been to the States, man.
No shit.
No.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you already know, like you've seen all the shots and everything, but like all over like the American Southwest, especially, is so good. I mean, there's some high elevations and it's super dry. It's probably like the closest thing to the Atacama is like Southwestern United States. I would think.
A lot of the landscapes look very similar as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, and then of course, like the Pacific Northwest is always, there's tons of stuff up there, but even like I actually still haven't shot out West for some reason. I don't know. I just haven't. I was just going to say, for whatever reason, I've never been shooting any night sky stuff out West, and I intend to do that. But I also have Maine, that state like in the Northeast of the US. And like that's a great spot to shoot as well. It's a little bit harder because there's always this like haze. It's like it's right on the water. So you have all the like salt water and stuff that kind of obscures things on the horizon. But when you have a clear night, I mean, Maine is really cool. And you have some, like, there's like the lighthouses and all like the rocky coast. So that as well is a really cool scene. It probably is a little bit more challenging because of some of the issues in the on the horizon, and there's a lot of like leaves and like anyone that's masked in a sky to a foreground with leaves, it's like miserable. But it's really cool up there. And I would even say if you were to come to the US, like think about checking out Maine, just because I don't think that like a lot of the big like landscape and astro guys, like the Shane Blooms and people like that, like I don't think that they really come to Maine that often. So that might be a unique perspective for somebody like yourself. Something worth thinking about.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, dude, come to the US. That'd be cool. I would go to whatever shit you were doing. I would show up.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, I've got this thing where like I really want to photograph a rocket launch. So it's just a perfect country to come and do that.
Yeah, like a Falcon 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
I've had both Emmerich. I don't know if you know Emmerich. He's a time lapse guy. He had like a really viral image. He did in fact, you probably saw it. It was a time lapse of the Falcon 9 rocket. I guess it was like 2 years ago. And I remember I was like kind of, virtual friends with him and followed him for a little while back. And I think at the time he had like, I don't know, 5,000 followers or something. And it was like in 2 days, he got to like 40K or something, just like
Jeez.
that. I think like on YouTube, of course, everyone's trying to steal your videos, as I'm sure you've had shit like that too. But I think all told, it had like 30 million views or something. And it was, he just had this cool spot in the hills somewhere in like LA. And it just, probably got lucky. I mean, I know he was trying to shoot it, but, even like in the frame, it kind of went like this, you know what I mean? So it was just perfect.
Yeah.
And it's this really cool, I don't know. It looks like a whale or something, like the way that the
big plume.
Yeah. It's really cool. So I remember that was a really cool shot. And then Kevin Green, I don't know if you know him, and he's another guy who lives in LA.
Yeah.
He's been shooting those for years. That's like his favorite thing to do. So,
oh man,
he's got some good spots. If you wanted to connect with him and just be like, dude, where's a great spot to check out to do one of these?
Sweet.
Yeah, that'd be fun, man. That'd be fun to do that.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I'm going to get this book out the way now. Lockdown's going to relax, and then the travel bug's just going to be, I think, unstoppable. I think, man.
Yeah. Have you had to cancel anything? Like, were you supposed to be doing anything?
Yeah. I had workshops in the UK that were cancelled. Tenerife next month has been cancelled. Supposed to be in Turkey for 4 workshops over August and September. So they are still possible. Probably, I mean, the September was obviously more possible. August is still like 50-50. And I'm like in the mindset where like, do I really want to be responsible for taking people in a group to another country? And still a lot to think about, but loads of talks cancelled. Obviously now they're getting picked up by Zoom talks and online talks and stuff. So yeah.
But they're not the same, it's like
no, you need that crowd reaction, and it's weird being in a room on your own.
Yeah.
And like you tell a joke and it's just silent, and you're like, you don't know if anyone's like, how did that go? I don't know.
Right. And it's like you don't have the body language as well. You don't have that like it's I would imagine that's pretty difficult. But plus, like, I think even like when you do a workshop, I would think in person, it's like you feel like, just to get back to what we were talking about before with travel, it's like you feel this like this fire, you feel this like passion for being in this like maybe obscure location. And it's just like every part of the day, you're like, I always equate traveling to like being off autopilot. Like when you're just at home going throughout your day, please, thank you. Yes, I'll have more. No, like just, I don't know. It's like you have this really like simplistic, you're not thinking outside the box. You're just on autopilot. And I always find that when you travel, it's like I'm absorbing everything. I feel like I'm 5 years old and I'm a kid, and everything is just like hitting my brain in that efficient way.
Yeah, man, for sure.
So I would think if you're doing a workshop, like all the people that are there are feeling that, they're just like, I'm so open to everything that's taking place now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
I had a friend come over from Turkey a couple of months back, and it's just so nice when you have someone like that with you, where I'm taking them to places that I've been growing up in, I've been seeing for my whole life. But then you take them there and they're like, you kind of realize like, you kind of see that it is actually beautiful. You're just so used to seeing it that you've stopped looking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's why I always feel like there's always the trade-off between going to a place that you already know, but maybe like knowing how to get the shot. Like you just, hey, I know what to expect, or I know the good locations. And you can probably produce better work, but at the same time, it's like not as inspiring as when you go to a place like the first time. And it's, you're just like a kid, everything is just so new and awesome. And it's like the unknown that makes it so much more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever think about doing a workshop like that where you would just like, I've never actually been here before, or would that just be too fucked up?
I know that I'm a little bit of a control freak. So when something's like, when it's not under my control and everything's not cushy, That
Uh-huh.
would push me over the edge, man. Internally, I'd be freaking out.
Right.
It'd probably be obvious on my face, but like I would just be like so worried. It's
Right.
even bad when I'm doing workshops in places that I know really, really well, because it just puts so much pressure on myself to, you've got to make sure that this group of people are having a good time, learning, happy, comfortable. There's so much pressure
Yeah.
on these workshops, but it's really
Yeah.
rewarding when people do have an amazing time and you see them happy and smiling. They've taken photos they never thought they could take, and so it's like, yeah, it's really like it's a high pressure sort of thing, but it's a high reward thing as well.
I bet. Yeah. Yeah. You never want to have somebody have like a really shitty experience, and now you've got to spend like days with this person who's upset or something. It's super awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do the people that go to your workshops tend to be more of like the beginner, or more of like the I'm this close and I just need some more advice, or like we're all sorts on the spectrum? Or
Yeah, I'd say mainly people sort of just getting into it, either like absolute beginners or people who have like had a go themselves and they've like hit a wall where they just like the progress is plateaued. They're like, how can I improve? How can I get better, sort of thing. And then occasionally you just get the odd guy who knows his shit already, just wants to hang out, spend some time with like-minded people, go to the best locations and that kind of thing. So
right.
yeah, mainly beginners, but you do get a mix of sort of everything.
Yeah. So I guess you probably do get, like I was referring to earlier, the person that's sort of like, I went down the checklist of the 5 things. It's like, well, I've did the 500 rule and I've done this, but like, it's still a noisy, blobby, color ridden, photo. Like, how do I take it to the next, level? Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man, it is a really cool, hobby or even profession, in that like it just never seems to end with like you being able to get better. Like there's just, and especially with like camera technology changing, it's like there's always a little bit better that you can achieve, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do feel like the technology's hit a bit of a plateau, to be honest. I can't see how it's going to get much better, but then you never know, do you?
Well, if you take phones, I don't know. Like, I have to assume that things can get better just because. And does that ever concern you? Like, just the whole, like, Jesus, in 5 years, someone's just going to be able to go, yeah, and it's going to be an amazing photo on their phone. Like, does that ever, or does it just challenge you? Like, well, I have to get better? Or
it used to. So it used to bother me, but then it was when I started evaluating where the value was in my business. And I realized that, or in my art even, so the value of my business is probably more educational. But the value in the art is more, I guess, my style. And, you can give a random person a phone that could take an amazing image in one shot, but you've got to have the sort of compositional things and be able to create an image that has a reason or a purpose or tells a story. So it's a lot more than just going boop and you've got like a noise-free, amazing quality looking image.
Right.
It's having the other aspects that make something or an artwork sort of valuable. So it used to bother me, but then I don't know. So I started getting over it.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose once you have like trust of a decent amount of people that are going to listen to your advice, then, maybe you're over that hump for where it could threaten what you do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it does stay in the back of my mind. I mean, I put these presets out online for Lightroom, and then you just start seeing like people releasing images in your style, and it's like, oh wait, what have I done?
Right.
So there's that aspect of it.
Well, what do you mean? Like that's a bad thing?
I wasn't sure. I mean, it was nice to, obviously people are having a great time and they feel like their images are a lot better, but then when everybody else's images are starting to look like yours, it's like, oh, have I shot myself in the foot here?
I see what you're saying. But that's photography though, isn't it? I mean, it's like, I always think that the hardest thing to do, and I think that the difference, like my definition of like an artist is like there are technicians, there are people that, and I'm more so in this category, admittedly. It's rare that I produce something where I feel is actually unique. They're sort of like they saw a photo, like an awesome photo, and they went, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
Now my brain is on, 100%. I'm trying to get that, and maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes 5 years, I don't know. And they're just kind of racing to get there. And then and you do that, I think, with a lot of different photos, a lot of different landscapes. That's why you keep seeing the same compositions over and over on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll go to that, lavender field in France or whatever it is, and we're going to get that particular shot. And I think at some point, a lot of people have that realization that, well, what am I doing this for? Like, am I really I'm just copying other people? And yeah, I've gotten good at it, but I'm just regurgitating the same stuff that other people have already done. And then I think that's when I think maybe a lot of people either kind of stop obsessing over it and it maybe get a little burnt out, or you go, well, what's next? Like, and I think that next step, that's where you're an artist. Like, that's where it's like, no, I envisioned something in my head and then I went out and I did it. And I don't even know, maybe someone's done it. I don't know. The point is I thought of that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good way for beginners, if you don't really know what you're doing, sort of copy tried and tested compositions and stuff. And I'd fall into that trap myself when I was starting out. But yeah, you do kind of have to ask yourself why you're taking an image. And I think going back to your point about Instagram as well, is that the things that the like count is what affects people's decisions. They see that image does well, so they're going to do it, and it does well. And that's the issue with like recognizable locations. So like Nick Page always tags his images with Mesa Arch. But like when people see a picture of Mesa Arch, it gets a lot of attention because a lot of people recognize that place. Right. They're inclined to like the image because they're like, oh, I've been there. I really like that place. And they're inclined to like them. They're not liking it because it's a good photo. They're liking it because they've been there before and they like seeing it again. So I found that like creating something unique in a place that's not, recognizable, if that gets liked, you sort of, you've done something right, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as well, I used to, when I'd go to a new place or a new country and you sort of do a lot of research into what sort of locations are there, what sort of shots can be had, I sort of started toning down on that because I found you'd end up traveling somewhere just to take a photo that you've already seen rather than going to a place and capturing what you see. So I stopped doing so much research that I would when I go to a new place. And I just rather just go there, have a look around and just see what you come up with, see what inspires you, see what you find. And it just feels so much better when you get that image.
Totally. Because it came from your brain.
Yeah.
I think that's got to be the best place to be, is like somewhere just, I always think like, yeah, moderation is like the key to everything. And I don't always follow that. I just know that is the truth. And I try to, but it's totally right. I often think when I get into something that I can really obsess over, much like night sky photography, which is very easy to fall into that obsession trap, is like, try to not be so obsessed with it. Like just try to just sort of like, have that outlook of like, hey, I'm going to go here and I'm certainly going to try to get an image. But if I don't get something that's amazing, like it's not really the end of the world. And there's other stuff I can do. And it's hard to be there when, especially if you're like, trying to go for likes. I think that's like the best way to be, because you just, I don't know. It's like, it sounds a little hokey. And my wife's always trying to convince me of this, but like, just having kind of good vibes, good energy about you will attract other good vibes and good energy. And while on one hand, I always tease her for saying that, because I'm like, what the fuck kind of unscientific shit is that? But on the other hand, I kind of like some of my experiences have kind of led me to believe, I don't know, maybe there really is something to that. And I think it totally qualifies here,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, law of attraction, and all that. But yeah, going back to your point about like not getting successful as well. Like when you go to a location, I used to fall into that trap as well of sharing an image because I put all that effort into it, and it didn't go as well as I'd wanted. But I'd share the image because I was like, I put all that effort in. I have to let the world know.
Right.
And like going to a location with like an image already in mind that doesn't happen just sets you up for disappointment. And then you're in this mood and you're like, you're not going to be able to create a good image when you're just sat there disappointed that it didn't go how you wanted it to go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just going somewhere with no expectations and just seeing what happens.
It's hard to do though. It's really hard to not have expectations if you've built like your obsession, like night sky photography, around like what birthed that obsession was seeing the cool photo on Instagram. Because it's like, I think when you're first introduced into something, if you're introduced by like, this is an awesome photo, that dude is a rock star, I'm going to follow him. And I like love this guy. I think that happens to people. It happens to me, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's hard to get out of that headspace. I think like it's hard to not have those expectations. So if you've got any tips for that, I'm all ears.
Well, I guess one bit of advice I always give is to like, don't compare yourself to those guys. Don't compare yourself to anyone. Compare yourself to yourself from last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And just kind of see how it's going from there.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'll give you my recent example of this, which is actually, this is an unusual one because usually it happens to me if I make a photo and I'm like, yeah, man, it's not as good as I thought, or what Instagram handcuffed me in this moment or whatever the hell I thought. But in this particular case, so I did a podcast with this guy, Gilbert Ott, who is God Save the Points. I don't know if you've ever heard of him before. He's like a travel and points blogger. So he's like one of, if you're searching for like, how do I fly on points or something, like he'll probably be on the first page. Okay. So yeah, it's like his whole website and social accounts and everything. It's all about like, hey, have you ever wanted to take this dream trip? Well, if you get, this credit card, and if you kind of pay attention to what I'm saying and look for these like loopholes in the system, well, within a couple of years, I'll be able to get you to fly to, Australia first class, and it will cost you, $60 or something. Like that's his sort of like thing. And it's a whole industry. And this has been like one of my obsessions as well over the years, because I go from like one to the other all the time. But anyway, so I had him on, and I thought, if anyone is kind of more, I don't know, like marketable per se in a podcast of like time lapsers and landscape photographers, like it's probably this guy, because, he has like millions of visitors on his site, and it's just like, well, who doesn't want to travel for cheap? And I was so stoked about this one podcast, and then I put it up, and it's like, I don't know if it was the time of day or the algorithm, or maybe my theory is just wrong, but it's like, this one is getting like no views. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it like totally, it bummed me out, dude. It bummed, not like suicidal or anything, but like, it was like, fuck, man. Like, I don't understand. Like, am I wrong about this? Like, do people not want to travel like for free? That just seems like such a gimme. Like, I would want to check this podcast out. And so I don't know.
Yeah, it happens with YouTube videos, man. When you upload them, and like it's always the case that the stuff you're most proud of just doesn't do well, and you're like, "Well, what? This is my best work. Why are you not watching this?"
Yeah,
but like, and then you gotta just remind yourself of why you did it, and like if you're getting enjoyment out of it, who cares how many people listen or watch?
It's true, and that's the thing that I'm constantly reminding myself of, is that there are times where I'm thinking like, man, this is you and I are episode 18, which in a sense makes this, pretty new. And it is. I mean, I've been doing a lot of them, but I've only been doing them for like 2 months. So I remind myself of that. It's like, bro, you've been doing this for 2 months. Like, somebody like Alyn's going to be like, are you serious? You're bitching now? Like, I've been doing this for, 3.5 years. It's like, it's going to take a lot more effort than that before you start getting upset. So I feel that. But more importantly, like, I walk away like I'm having a great time right now, dude. Sincerely, like I love doing these. I love having people on because everyone that like I said before, everyone that I have on, like I appreciate, or sometimes there are people that I've known for like years, and I was like, oh man, I've always looked up to this person or whatever. So, in that moment of doing them, it feels good. It feels really good. And so even though like the next couple of days I might be like, God damn it, like why isn't, why does no one sees this the way that I see this? What the hell's going on? But then I go to the next one. I'm like, okay, right. That's why I'm doing them.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
No, that's good. Yeah, I think that it resonates so much with the internet is that when people can see that you're doing things for genuine reasons, you're doing it because you enjoy it, they latch onto it so well. You see so many guys on YouTube making photography vlogs, but you could just sort of see that they're not doing it because they enjoy doing it. They're doing it for other reasons. They want the attention or the following or something.
Yeah.
And yeah. I don't know.
Well, I think that people are very good at discerning authenticity.
Yeah.
I think that people, for the most part, are dumb. You heard it here, folks. I think people are not really all that intelligent for the most part. And when I say intelligent, I mean with like, I don't know, reading like situations. Like people get that wrong, like obnoxiously high rate. Like people will not be able to discern things in the way that you'd think they'd be able to discern things. But being able to detect authenticity is something that, like, for whatever reason, I think people are really good at, like really, really good at. And to your point, it does seem like the ones that are the most successful, like vloggers, especially, and people where it's like, it's me, like I'm the show. I think people are pretty good at telling like, oh, wow, this person is just totally geeked out about this topic. Like they're definitely not lying. And the people that are kind of just going through the run through of like, what do I need to say? What does everyone else say? Cool. Like that's the recipe for success.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And especially those sort of people that have a niche as well. It's just so good to follow when they're genuinely passionate about something and it's a little niche. They're the good ones. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it's probably easier to discern, like, especially from like a super specific topic like night sky photography. It's like probably Alyn Wallace is like he's not, if he wanted to be like an investment banker, like if he wanted to make like millions of dollars, like he probably would have just gone that route. But like, clearly like somebody like you is doing this because it's just every time you do, you're just, fuck, this is awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I still wake up every day like, what the fuck? I'm making a living from this? Like, what?
Yeah.
It's been 3 years, man. It still hasn't sunk in. I'm just like, fuck, this is cool, man.
Yeah, it totally is. And I love the fact that, like you said, it doesn't really matter where you're located. Like that must be such a freeing feeling. I know there's probably so many people out there that if they do see this, it's going to validate a lot of the things that they already think, which is like, there's just something about not having to be physically connected to a location that I think is really appealing to a lot of people. Just be like, I could just go here for 6 months and then I could go there for 6 months and who the fuck cares?
Yeah. My entire life, I've just never really been good with commitments. I just don't like committing to stuff because I'm like, I don't know what I want to do next month. No, I'm not like, and it's like even down to the smallest of things, like a telephone contract. I'm like, I'm not paying a monthly contract. I might want to leave next month. So it's like, there's zero commitments in my life, man. And even growing up in school, I was like, how is the idea of working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 freedom? Like, you call that freedom? Like, what? I just didn't buy into that at all. I was like,
yeah. Well, not buying into it probably got you to, have the drive to do what you're doing. You really have to not want something to like go this alternative route,
Yeah, I mean, there's people out there who love the stability of it, but just not for me, man.
You have are you like an ADHD kind of person? Like, do you have that, like, I'm constantly sort of being distracted by like other possibilities and things like that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm bad for that. Yeah, I mean, I sound pretty similar to you, man. Just hobbies just change so quickly, and then, but it's like, it's not just like an interest. It's like you get into something, and then you really get into something. Like,
Yeah, like I have to be the
obsessed.
best at this.
Yeah. You just get really obsessed over this little thing, and then along comes the next thing, and then along comes the next thing. I'm surprised I've gone this long with the astrophotography, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's all the more reason that I'm like impressed by it. Not that I knew that you had ADHD or anything, but as a person that clearly has it, like I'm all like, dude, I always have this fear of I've got this new obsession, and I'll tell myself, because I've done this like, dude, for decades, where I was like, and then it's just like, bro, you just spent like, you sold everything you had to support this, and you got $20,000 of gear. Like, you can't just say, like, this is insane. But I always worry, like when I started really getting into photography a few years ago, that was the concern. It was like, you know, how do I like pace myself? How do I make sure that, that I'm not going to do that, thing, you know?
Yeah. And when I started, but when I switched from a hobby to a profession, it was really bad. I mean, the first year was horrible, man, because you just constantly go through those thoughts of like, what have I done? I've ruined something that I really love doing, because now I'm just thinking commercially, like, is this photo going to make me money? Should I bother going to get that photo? Is it going to benefit my business or whatever? And I was like, shit, I've just completely like burnt the thing that I love doing, because now everything's, return of investment or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, for the first year it was really difficult. I just like really had to switch up the mindset of splitting the sort of business side and the passionate side. And I think the biggest thing of that was just like not putting any monetary value in the images that I take. It was like, the money will come from other places. Don't worry about it. Just take the images that you want to take. Don't worry about selling that image or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it took a long time to get over that.
Yeah, that's tough. And then I would imagine that combined with like that pull of like, well, what if another butterfly, comes by that I'm attracted to, or it's like you're in a vulnerable position. Like, I don't know. All of a sudden, like, you make some money on like Bitcoin, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, should I just only worry about Bitcoin now? Like, maybe that's my thing.
Yeah, it's
whatever it is.
Yeah, it does worry me, man. It still worries me, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I find that the older I get, it seems like the more like resolved in a thing I've been able to get. So I think probably aging helps.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, if you've been at it for 5 years and what, I guess professionally for, what did you say, like 3.5 now?
Yeah. About 3.
I feel like you should feel solace in that. I would think like you've probably gotten. Like, it's been 3.5 years. Like, I think I've passed that test,
Yeah. It definitely feels a lot more comfortable now. I'm like, oh, this actually isn't getting boring. This is great. So it's really settling. Yeah, it's definitely really settling.
Yeah.
And it's nice that it's a thing that I can do in places all around the world as well, which I think is great. I can just come to the United States and just carry on over there. Do you know what I mean? It's
right. Well,
yeah.
the appeal of travel can kind of like supplement the, maybe sometime like waning appeal of doing photography professionally.
Yeah.
I would think. So you maybe have those lulls as everyone has, or those like kind of depressed moments of like, I can't think of anything to do, or like, why am I even like, this is silly or whatever. But then it's like, well, hey, I've got this trip that I'm looking forward to. Like anyone that works a 9 to 5, it's like, it's always about these, like, how can I strategically set out these little distractions, before I die. It's like, hey, I've got Christmas, and then like I'm going to the beach in the summer, and then I've got this, and like, and then that's it, and your life's over. But like, depressing as that is, like, I think it's what you do. You just set up these little markers that you can get to, because that's what you do. And I think it's no different. Like if you're like, okay, well, how do I come up with a new video, or should I buy this like insanely expensive lens? Is it worth it? Will I get the view count I need, or probably all these things that I would imagine you're thinking of. And as you're thinking those things, you still have that trip that you're looking forward to, much like anyone else with a 9-to-5. But when you get there, not only is it inspiring, but now that's going to help your business anyway. So
yeah,
I feel like that's so
Win-win.
awesome to have that. Yeah,
it is, man. I feel so grateful to be in that sort of position as well, because I know I was that guy who was like, what can I do that will allow me to travel and be free and all this stuff? And I just feel so lucky that I found that thing.
Dude, totally lucky, man. My I always talk about how the really lucky people in the world are the ones that actually knew what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
I've always felt that way, because, and maybe you were this way up until the point that you're at now, given the sort of ADHD tendencies. There was always this concern, because of getting into one thing and then getting out of it, like this like kind of torture, like what the hell what am I supposed to do? Like,
it used to blow my mind, especially like in school, where like your friends, like they know exactly what they want to do, and I was just like, well, how the fuck have you chosen this already?
Right.
And as you go through school, you have to choose like less and less topics. And I was like, I just want to do everything. Like, why can't I do everything? They're like, no, you can only do 3. And I'm like, whoa, God. And then you go to university and do one thing, and I'm like, well, I don't want to get stuck doing this one thing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, very, very kindred spirits for sure. Because I can't even tell you like how, really, not to go dark, but like really like depressing shit when I was growing up, thinking about stuff like that. Like, I don't understand how everyone is so able to commit to certain colleges and universities based on their preconception of like, well, like when I'm 30, I want to have that. And I'm just like, 30? Dude, like 30? Like 30 is like so far beyond anything of my comprehension, Like I don't have a 10-year plan. I don't have a 6-month plan. Like I don't, well, like what you said was, I just want to do everything. And that resonates so hard, man, because it was like, even like I can even remember where I would hear about like a profession, or maybe I would watch like a movie. It could even be like about a fictional character in which this fictional character has a profession, and I would watch them go about their profession, and I would like romanticize about it. And I would go, yeah, maybe I could be like a secret agent, like viable, and like I would choose these ridiculous, like I'd watch like Mad Men, and I'd be like, maybe I should be a marketing executive that, like bangs all these women and like makes millions of dollars and then goes off the deep end on acid one day in California. Like maybe I should do, and it's so absurd. But sometimes I was able to get in these, moments where like, I would think maybe I could do this. And then I'd have to kind of like validate it with somebody else to be like, yeah, my head is here. Like, do you think I could do this? And they're like, bro, you're not that person even a little bit. Why would you even entertain this idea? And the truth is, it's because I imagined it, and I imagined all the benefit that might come with it. And I thought, like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe I've been looking under the wrong rock. Like maybe this is the thing. And it's so hard to not do that for me.
Yeah. I think I've now got to a point where I've stopped doing everything. You just find that as time goes by, you just have less and less time to do stuff as well.
Yeah.
It's really weird. The days just feel shorter, months feel shorter, years feel shorter. You just like, how did I have all that time to do all that stuff that I used to do? But yeah.
Yeah. It's very true, man. And every year is a little bit shorter, to quote Pink Floyd. Every year is getting shorter.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And I'll especially tell you, and this, honestly, this was probably the biggest like milestone for me in terms of this mentality, was I have a daughter now who's going to be 2 years old next month. And like, I don't want to say the stupid hokey thing that parents say. I'll just say that like, all the cliches of like having a kid really do seem to be true. In that it's, well, number one, the days are unbelievably short. Like that, it was like they were getting depressingly short to begin with. And now that she's like growing up, it's like, you know, like your friends always ask you, like, because we were like the first to have kids, and they'll always be like, yeah, dude, so what's it like, you know, being a dad? And it's like, I never really know what to say. And the reason why is because I still feel like a fraud. It's like, well, I'm not really a dad. And then I like have to look at her and be like, holy shit, it's like, I don't even believe that my wife is pregnant yet. Like, let alone like, oh, apparently she's not only pregnant, but she had a baby, and like now the baby is 2 years old. So man, like that went by so fast, but on the flip side, it was really good for me too, because it, I don't know, like I find that I'm looking less for those things that, you know, could I do this, and that validation, in having a child. Like, it's very cool to have a sense of like fulfillment for basically, you know, doing nothing. You know, like anybody could have done this, but the fulfillment is still there. It's really weird. It's a really strange, like reptilian thing, you know?
Yeah, I can't say. I mean, I've heard all the things, but can't relate.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
One of those things you have to go through.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And
yeah,
having kids is probably pretty far away from you at the moment, given that you're thinking about where should I go, and
not even crossing my mind right now, to be honest.
Yeah, of course not.
I used to hate the pressure of like, you should have kids and all this, and I was just like, I don't want kids.
Yep.
At least not now. Not really.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure at some point I will be more inclined to, but yeah, not right now.
I think it's one of those things like, first of all, I can't stand when people will tell me like the you shoulds in life. Like that always drives me crazy. And I definitely have, you know, a few of those people in my life that will, you know, hound me about certain things. And I can tell you that, like, I'm not one of those people that had kids and said like, oh, nothing else, you know, mattered before then, and it's the greatest thing. Like the truth is, like, it's great. It definitely is. But I wouldn't necessarily tell a person that was considering it or thinking like, I don't want to. I wouldn't be like, no, like, you need to go and do this, because the truth is, like, I could do more shit before having a kid. 100%.
Yeah.
There was more time. I don't know. It's like things. It's like I just reprioritize, I guess.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan said this thing one time about having kids that I thought was pretty well articulated. He said that, like, it's almost like if you imagine having multiple programs running on your computer, like, you know, when you Control Alt Delete and you see all these system processes and everything. Although maybe you're a Mac guy, I can't see it from here.
No, I'm Windows, man.
Okay, so Control Alt Delete, that hits hard. Good. You know, like, it's like when you have a kid, it was almost like there's this new process that's just in the background. And so even if they're not in front of you, and even if you're just, I could be out on an Astro trip or something, and they could be at home being taken care of by grandma or whatever, like, there's still a process. Like, it's still just always there. And it is weird. It's just like another anxiety kind of. It's another thing to be worried about, you know?
Anxiety.exe.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, dude. So, by the way, it's great segue here, Adam. By the way, it's a new moon tonight, right?
Oh, it is.
Tonight is the new moon, and you. Let's see. So, I don't even know how the hell this worked out. It was not by design, but last new moon in April, I had Yuri Beletsky on, and this new moon,
well, yeah,
I have Alyn Wallace. How cool is that?
You have to make it a thing now.
Right. Like, if I can even make this last.
Although, to be fair, if it wasn't for lockdown, you'd struggle to get an astrophotographer on your podcast during new moon. So totally. Yeah. I mean, Yuri couldn't even do it because he hit, like, the telescope isn't even like work. It can't be used right now because shut down.
To be honest, when I first of all, it was an awesome guy to talk to, especially because he's actually
great,
an astronomer.
He's great.
Yeah, super, super friendly, humble guy. And of course it was like, you know, I had to get into like the aliens conversation. It was just one of those things where beforehand I was like, all right, well, I want to talk to this guy about aliens, but I don't want to come off like a douchebag. Like, how am I gonna do this? And somehow I ended up like, he kind of brought it up, and he was talking about like habitable planets. And he kind of said, I was like, well, what, you know, projects are you working on? And he said, well, he talked about like the brown dwarfs, looking for them, and that was cool. And then he was like, oh, you know, he mentioned as like a side comment almost, because it, you know, it's just what he does for a living. It's like not as big of a deal, I guess, at that point. And he was like, oh, and we're also looking for habitable planets. And anyway, and I was like, whoa, like, go back. Habitable planets, you're looking for aliens, come on. So it was really cool having him on. But yeah, what a weird coincidence to have back-to-back new moons with two of the I don't know, preeminent night sky people.
It's a coincidence.
Yeah. So did you meet him in the Atacama or something, or how do you know Yuri?
Well, I met him in Santiago when I was passing through for the eclipse. And we hooked up and he took me out for food. He's just the sweetest guy. So That's knowledgeable. Cool. Just the nicest dude, really funny. Yeah, it was great. Unfortunately, we didn't get to shoot together. He was so busy working. And even on the day of the eclipse, he was looking after groups. And
right.
So yeah, sadly, we didn't get a shoot. I would have loved to have spent the night out with him somewhere, but
yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah,
I know
he's great, man.
Well, he loves when people come to the Atacama. I have a feeling that at this point he's got like a bit of a kinship with it. Like he almost wants to sell it as a location to like come and shoot, because we were talking about, you know, what might be some of the next places I might go. And I was talking a bit about Namibia, which is obviously a great night sky location, but also for me, it's like, I love to go to Africa. It's been a thing since I was a kid. And like Namibia kind of has everything. It's got the cool landscapes. Have you been there yourself?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you still know. But you know, it's got all the cool landscapes, like all the different colored like sand and the dead trees and everything, which is always really cool. And then of course it has the great night skies. And then it also has like the safari country area in the northeastern part of the country. So you can kind of, for me, it's like, wow, I can get everything that I want to get here. Yeah. And so he like totally validated. He's like, oh, it's one of the best. But I could tell that in talking about places, like he really was kind of not like selling me on going to the Atacama, but it you can tell that he's very like proud of where he works and everything. And he loves it there.
It's no surprise, to be honest, man. It is a great place. There's so much to explore. It's huge.
The Atacama really or Chile in general?
Well, Chile in general, but also the Atacama. And just the way the landscape can change so quickly as well. And you just feel like you're on another planet. It's really bizarre.
Yeah. I think it's probably has the most Martian looking landscape of any photos that I've ever seen. There's probably a couple that are, I mean, Arizona has a little bit of that too, for sure. But yeah. And I didn't realize like all of the, like, you know, health kind of not issues, but like, all of the, like the dry air and like sort of combating that when you're there. Like I didn't even know that was such a thing until he started talking about how crazy that is.
I mean, like the first day I slept there, I woke up one morning with like real bad pain in my lips, and it was just blood all over my face, man, where my lips had just dried so much.
Holy shit.
It sort of cracked open at the side and just bled over the night. The altitude gets you as well, because I mean the main like the main hub in Atacama Desert, this little sort of mud town, it's about 2,400 meters up. 2,400, 2,500, which is like the limit of altitude sickness anyway, like the minimum sort of threshold. Right. And then, when you go for a drive and all of a sudden you don't even realize, but you're like 4,500 meters up. And there was one night where it just hit me like a train, man. And I was just like, sat in the car and I could just barely move. I was just like,
like out of breath,
just no energy, didn't want to move. Felt like my skull was just like squeezing my brain. And I just didn't want to speak. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything. And my friend Adrian took me back down to 2,500. And I just slept it off and I was fine. And then 2 days later, he had it, but he's got it really worse because he's got a blood condition where he doesn't produce much red blood cells. So yeah, he was like practically choking and dying in front of me. It was terrifying.
Holy shit.
And he couldn't breathe, and he was like, that just sent him into a panic attack, and
right.
Yeah, just had to get him done as quick as possible.
Was
it's not the kind of place.
Was this like a relatively recent trip? Because I feel like I remember watching a vlog of yours where you were like, yeah, I was just kind of out for a day or two.
Yeah, it was July. Yeah, July last year.
Okay.
2019.
Yeah, I think I actually did watch that.
Yeah, I was just like sat in the back of the car, just like, I just fucking feel like
right. Right.
Yeah, it was, oh man.
Yeah, I could see how that
was so sudden.
Oh, that's so weird.
So yeah, I mean, it's not the sort of place you want to go alone, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would not have been able to drive myself back down. Absolutely no
shit.
Chance.
Wow. So yeah, it's really, it is really kind of a dangerous place, I guess, in that regard. Yeah. So were there certain things that you had to do like before you left, like certain like, hey, make sure that you take this or whatever? Like, is it just sort of like there's nothing you can do? It just is what it is.
Like a shit ton of water, basically, and just make sure your spare tire is good.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if you get a flat, especially with the kind of like the roads are absolutely terrible. So it's like you do not want to get a flat here, otherwise. Well, we did get a flat at one point, but the spare tire was okay. But then you're on edge. You're like, oh, now I haven't got a spare tire. So you're like going back really slowly.
Right. So take two.
Yeah.
Now this
so
is
just.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was going to say, so this is the drive from Santiago to the Atacama. Is that the drive you're referring to?
No, we actually flew from Santiago to Atacama.
Okay.
The drive is huge. I think it's like 20 hours or something. Yeah, we flew to Atacama, but the problem with Atacama is that all of the best places are closed off at night, and there's security guards who don't let you in, basically. So in order to shoot astro, you kind of have to just like go far away from the main sort of central tourist area.
Okay.
Because all of like, there's like the Valley of the Moon just gets closed off at night. Like all the lagoons just get closed off at night. And it's like, it's not as if you can just sneak in, because not only is there like security there, but like to get to the lagoon, you have to go down this road, which is like, I don't know, 3 kilometers. And so they just close the gate. So the closest you can get anyway is like 3 kilometers, and then you've got to walk all that way, and then you walk there, and then security come out, and they're like, you got to get the fuck out of here.
Right. Carry your 20
it's really
pounds of gear
frustrating
back.
because obviously, yeah, and like all the best places are there, you know, like all of the like amazing stuff, the lagoons and the big lakes and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of have to drive far away from the center.
So all of the like most picturesque places are essentially just closed at night. Is that?
Yep.
That's so weird.
And even in the daytime, you have to pay for most stuff, even if it's just like a viewpoint.
Yeah, that seems odd, especially, I mean, maybe, to be fair, I'm probably very unaware and potentially even ignorant about stuff in Chile that's, you know, very possible. But I don't know of the Atacama for anything except for like tourism. So you would assume
exactly.
Like, I mean, aren't they kind of, it's like, bro, that's why we're here, you know, like.
Well, yeah, but and that's why they charge, because they've got nothing else they can sell you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's the only thing they got going for them, so they try and make as much money as possible.
So you'd think that they just
for it,
charge you more to get there at night or something. Like at night, it's this much or something. Like, I don't know. At least you'd be able to go.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the real reasons why they don't accept you to pay to go at night. I don't see why that shouldn't be a thing. But they're really protective about the landscape. So like a lot of the lagoons and the salt lakes are very fragile natural areas. You know, the salt around the shore is very fragile. And if you stamp on it, it takes, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of years to recover. So at least in the daytime, they can kind of keep an eye on the tourists and be like, hey, stay behind the fence. Don't cross that line, blah, blah, blah. And I can imagine that being a bit of a logistical nightmare at night.
Yeah.
And they've then got the companies that run astronomy and stargazing and astrophotography nights. So it's probably a way of sort of protecting that business. So you can appreciate it, but you just take a drive like an hour away. You can find some beautiful places, but you always end up like really high in altitude. And but yeah, it was really bizarre because like here in the UK, like the outdoors is just open and free, you know. So it was like, I gotta pay £3 to get to that viewpoint. Like really, it was weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is kind of an interesting conversation too, because like, you know that a lot of these places are taken advantage of by a lot of people that come in and, you know, like if you're, you know, the influencer on Instagram and it's like, well, I have to take my, you know, my angel wings on the wall, you know, picture or whatever stupid shit people do. So yeah, it's like on one hand, I go, it's good that these natural places are not taking any bullshit. So I do think that, but then, on the other hand, it's like, I guess it's just narcissism. It's like, no, but see, this is the thing that I want to do now. Like you should open this up and let me do that. So, I don't know. Yeah. It's, that's a tough thing. And now that you mention it, that same guy, the Point blogger guy that I had on, one of the cool things we were talking about with travel with COVID-19 and everything is like, how will travel change? And like, you already have this like burgeoning idea of like some of these places that need to protect their ecology kind of starting to crack down on things. It's become, you know, when people step on the tulips in Holland, it's like, it's become taboo. It's not just like, in terms of, I don't know, whatever that is, like the awareness that people, that collective, like awareness that people have. It's like, if you see someone doing that, it's like, oh, fuck this guy. You know what I mean? Like we now know to protect these kind of things. So we've gotten over the hump of like, let's just get the picture. And now it's like, is that person stepping on the poppy seed field? Like get them the hell out of here. And so I think, like local governments are even starting to crack down as well. Like they're starting to feel that like, hey, we really need to preserve this. We can't just let people run all over it willy-nilly for 2 years. And now we've got nothing left. So, you know, like that's kind of already happening, but then you add to it the idea of travel not like being as accessible potentially in the future because like there's just not going to be as many routes and you know, because the interest isn't there. And so there's this idea that going to a lot of these places is going to become, you know, more of like a wealthy people type of thing because everything's just going to charge more money to have less people come, which is, to be fair, in terms of the environment, that's probably how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one because it's like, you know, everyone should have a right to the natural world. So it's like, how do you do it? It's a tough one, man. I think Iceland's a good example to look at because for such a small country and an incredible, beautiful natural place, they take such a battering from tourists. So it's like, but they do a lot in sort of educating the people that come here, they'll come there to their country and just sort of making sure that people appreciate how much they look after the nature there. Yeah, it is a tough one.
Yeah, I suppose the key is that the tourism board needs to get all of their like educators or guides or whatever to be like, guilt is the key. If you just make people feel guilty when they come in about like, you know, then we're good. It's like there's nothing worse than some guilt.
How do you do that when the Instagram photo is more important than a few dead flowers though?
Yeah, that's true. And I guess it, you know, I've never been a hot chick who posts her ass, you know, on the internet in front of beautiful things for 500,000 likes. So I can't exactly relate. But if I'm being honest, like, I don't know, maybe I might just say, fuck it. And just, I'm going to trot on some beautiful scenery and just get
I follow
it.
this account on follow an account on Instagram called Instarect. I don't know if you follow these guys.
No, but I will now.
Yeah, I mean, they basically just like call out people who are breaking like national park laws or whatever. So yeah, it's really interesting. So there'll be like a photo of a hot chick lying in the poppies, but they'll just share that image and be like, you know, you should be setting an example of not killing these poppies. You saw the signs and all that. And it's interesting. You get some people who are like, oh, I'm really sorry. Thank you for educating me about this. I'll take the image down. But then you get the other people who are just like, just don't give a shit. Yeah. And you just like, how would you get through to these people?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's like sometimes it's hard to go through the world and just sort of have that assumption. Well, you know, I'm this way, so I assume people are like me, but not.
Yeah, how could
not
people
the
not
case.
be like this?
Yeah, because I look at stuff like that, and on one hand, you know, I'm in the middle of this debate where I go, no, I still want to be able to see these things, but just like for fuck's sake, like when you get there, just have a little bit of respect and just, I don't know, just know, like just know that like, well, hey, maybe that's pushing it a little bit, and I'll just like I see the tape, I'll just be behind the tape. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't seem that difficult, but I don't know. Other people, I guess, don't really feel that way. I'm not really sure, but that's cool. That account is, first of all, the idea is brilliant because essentially they still get the photos that are viral. And so they get to showcase these photos that the other people got while at the same time shaming them and say, here's the thing not to do. You know, meanwhile, 90% of the people are like, what a beautiful photo, click, and they're out.
Yeah.
So they kind of got the best of both on that one.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's changing. I mean, because obviously now they'll share an image and a lot of people will go to that person's account and comment on their image being like, you know, some people are quite arsy about it, but other people are like, oh, please don't post images like this. This is really bad, for setting an example. Whatever. But now Instagram are bringing in some new feature where you can just like mass delete comments.
No shit. Like that by like word or something, like by keyword.
Well, I think you can just sort of multi-select really quickly and just delete in one go. So they're like, our whole strategy is wrecked. Like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, that's true. Unless like they just keep at it for so long that it's just like, I don't have time to delete all these comments.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, that's a weird. I mean, I guess that's good and bad. I mean, yeah, you should be able to delete a bunch of bullshit, trolly, or the worst one is all these spam now. That's the worst. Oh,
Instagram's been terrible for years, man. Fed up of it.
Do you get a lot of the bad, like, it's always like Forex and Bitcoin comments. That seems to be it's always like, and dude, and it's so funny when like they'll post it on like a really inappropriate thing. Like someone will be like, this is a picture of like my mother, like she died,
just passed away.
She's just passed away from like a horrible, fire or something. And then like it'll just be like my
bro.
Yeah, right. And then it's like, someone says, my friend, Mr. Roberts, has helped me make over $10,000. And you're just like, oh, it's a bot, so they don't know, but
it's still terrible, man. And my Instagram account now is every 3 posts is an advert, basically.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
It drives me crazy, man. Drives me crazy.
I figured that out because I was kind of testing that the other day, and it's not necessarily every 3. I think it's like it depends on how many stories a particular account has that you have to sort through. Right. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily every 3. So in other words,
person's got loads,
multiple advertisements in that particular person's story. So,
right.
Like if you're one of these people that's just like, here's the 48 stories of me fucking putting seasoning on my, steak or whatever. It's like everyone has to see this, like the most narcissistic story. It's like, there was an advertisement for a surfboard, somewhere between putting the cilantro on and then, 3 steps later, there was an advertisement for, the Asimo robot right after you put butter on the steak as well or something. Is you end up with just this, there's just so many.
Yeah, I've really lost the love for Instagram a long time ago.
It's hard to compete. Like it's just, I know people will still say hashtags are useful, but it's just, I don't know. It's hard to, I'm going to be the cliche guy and be that doesn't have that many followers and say, well, it's not fair to the little guy, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's fair to the little guy.
Oh, it's not. I mean, look, anything Mark Zuckerberg fucking does, mate. His ultimate goal is to make you spend as much time as possible on these apps so he can sell adverts, basically. So he does make it difficult for you to get followers. He does make it difficult for you to get seen so that you spend more time on these apps, liking and commenting other people's stuff to try and get attention for your stuff. And
it's the worst.
It used to be so good, like before Zuckerberg, when it was like chronological order, and there was like some super creative people on there, and the whole idea of travel influencing hadn't really kicked off yet, and it was just people posting images from a mobile phone, doing like the most creative stuff.
Yeah,
now it's dead.
Yeah, I do see some people on there on Instagram that still don't have that many followers, that like the quality of their work is just as good as some of like the bigger folks. There's this one guy that I started following, I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago. I think I don't remember exactly his handle, but his name is like Hobby Sands, I think. And
right.
I'm actually not even sure where he lives. He's Hispanic, but I don't know if he lives in like, Central or South America, or if he lives in Spain or what. But anyway, he kind of does that, like ultra wide angle, flowers in the foreground, crazy sky, like Orton effect thing. That's like, to be fair, I mean, that is kind of become a cliche, but I don't know. I'm not over it yet. Like those images are so awesome looking when they're done really well. Like Shane Bloom, I think, does a little bit of that. Mind's Eye, he's another one. Like some of the bigger guys that do stuff like that. Mark, what's his name? Mark Adamus.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this guy Hobby does a lot of that stuff, and in some cases he does it even better. And I think, I mean, his follower count is growing because he's gotten a couple big shares lately, but I don't even know if he has 10,000. And I remember talking to him once and just being like, bro, like, keep at it. I'm telling you, like, your shit is really, really good. And I just don't think you're getting like the looks that you're supposed to be getting.
Yeah. Yeah. Instagram's tough, man. I mean, I don't put any effort into it anymore, to be honest. The thing with YouTube is like you share the ad revenue with YouTube, so you feel like you're in it together. Whereas when I'm on Instagram, I just feel like I'm working for Zuckerberg to sell adverts. I'm just like, fuck this, man.
Right.
Like you're the product, basically. It's really weird.
Yeah.
And you can't go viral on Instagram. It's difficult to get some sort of that sort of attention that you can get on other platforms.
What's your feeling on like curators? Because I kind of have a back and forth mentality on just the idea of like, I don't know. There's something they're great because you can get a share and you get a bunch of followers from a curator.
Oh, you mean the accounts that like share other images?
Yeah. So on one hand, it's like, I get it. This is cool. And on the other hand, it's like, wait, so you just look for the best images, post them, and then you get 100 times the amount of views that the person that actually does it gets? Like, it's very backwards, but I get it,
Yeah, I used to like them because obviously they were a good way to grow, but I don't know, I don't like them anymore. Yeah, like I fucking hate it when like one of those pages will like share your image and then they expect you to thank them.
Right.
And it's like the fucking cheek of it, man. You're coming into my DMs and thanking me after you just fucking stole my image without even asking me, so you can boost your own page. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
It's really weird, man. It's really weird.
Yeah, it really is. That's why I kind of feel like I have a little bit of a love-hate, because it's like, well, hey, I mean, I think it probably just matters, like, are they bigger than you? Because if they're bigger than you and they post your stuff, then you're thankful.
Yeah.
But
like, just ask first.
Yeah.
At least, like, I mean, is it that difficult to just ask? Like,
have you ever seen the ones where they'll compliment they'll either message you or they'll comment and they'll be like, hey, this is a great image. Like, is it okay if we repost it? And then you say yes, and then they never repost it.
Never happens.
Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bot, man. They've just paid a bot to do that on every image with a certain hashtag.
assuming that you'll go, oh great, I'm going to follow in when they show my image, and then they never do.
Exactly. Like they've offered you something and you're like, ooh, okay, like I'm gonna take you up on that offer, and then like nothing ever happens.
Yeah, that's the worst, man. It's funny, I never even really thought that was a bot, but you're probably right. Yeah, because that's like a feasible scam. Like that's a scam. Like it's almost like your endorphins are. You're like, oh my god, they're gonna share my.
Yeah.
You don't even see past like the obvious like naivete that you've got.
Yeah, sadly. And that's the thing I love about YouTube is that the comments I get just ooze genuinity, man. Like people, like on Instagram, it's like the classic, like sick tones, bro, or amazing shot, or like whatever. Just like little brief one fucking
check out my page. I love it. Like check out my page. Like fuck you, dude.
Always. And it's just sort of overly positive and fake, but like on YouTube, like people write paragraphs, man, like talking about like what they really enjoyed, or talking about how they were inspired, or like talking about what they learned, or perhaps talking about what you could have done better. But it's just like, it's so genuine. Do you know what I mean? That guy's taking time to sit there and write up that paragraph. Like, so it's like the feedback there is amazing, man. And especially for like the workshops, I found that my workshops were like a really local thing. But then when I started the YouTube, it was like people from here, there, and everywhere, because it was like they sort of feel like they know me now through YouTube, and they just sort of rock up as if they're like an old friend. I'm like, sorry, what's your name? Like,
right,
which is great. Like, but it's just like that connection with the audience on YouTube compared to any other social media is just, it's way above.
Yeah. That's got to be kind of weird too, right? Like maybe, I don't know, maybe you're not large enough to be the recipient of like the weird, like, hey, this is my friend. Feel like I don't know. But I would imagine at some point of growth in social media, maybe you would get that, like people that are like the obsessed fan where you're just like, all right. And like, you kind of have to keep your distance a little bit.
Yeah, maybe one or two there's been. And especially when you go to like a photography show where like everyone in the building is there because they're into photography or astrophotography or whatever. So there's always a few who just sort of start talking to you, but they don't introduce themselves, or they don't, say nice to meet you or whatever. They just, and I'm kind of sort of sat there going like, do I know this person? I can't ask, because if I know this person, it's going to be really embarrassing. So I'm kind of just going to go with the flow and go with the conversations.
Right. Yeah. It's like the Jerry Seinfeld, like Larry David episode of the social media influencer that like bumps into people and like, how do I, like, what's the right thing to say here? And do they think I'm an asshole? And
yeah, it is interesting, but no, I love it, man. It's great.
Yeah, dude, I'm really happy for you, man. I mean, you've obviously come a long way, and dude, to be making an actual income doing that is really, really cool, especially the thing that you, I guess, are the most passionate about, right? I mean, would you say your favorite thing is night sky stuff?
Yeah. And it was like, for me, like I've always loved the night sky and astronomy and astrophysics and that kind of thing. But I was just like, how do I make a career out of this? I'm going to be stuck in academia for the rest of my life. And it was like back in school, like, even though I was really technical and I loved doing like maths and science and that kind of thing, I loved doing like creative stuff like art and painting and designing and that sort of stuff. But when they sort of make you cull the subjects and you're sort of going through school, they're like, okay, now you have to choose 3 subjects. It was always go with the safe choice and do the technical stuff.
Right.
So I'd leave behind the art and the whatever, because like you never have a good money if you're an artist or whatever, that kind of. So it was like when I bought a camera, I was like, oh shit, this is like the one thing that can amalgamate my love of like physics and astronomy and the night sky, being artistic and creative and loving the outdoors. I was like, what the fuck is this little thing? Like this little neat little package that kind of just brought together everything I loved into one little thing. And I was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
Crazy for it.
And I would guess maybe you're probably kind of similar to Yuri, because he was a guy that I thought, what an odd, person to be not only so technically minded. I mean, that guy, he's a freaking scientist. Like he's like ridiculously technical, but then also still has that other side of his brain, interest in doing creative stuff. And like, there's the whole debate about like how much editing is too much across every genre, but especially with Night Sky. That's where it's like people get like mad. And it's just interesting to have a scientist brain, you know, that still says, oh yeah, you know, I'll make Ro Afiyuki, you know, pop like a motherfucker. Like, I'm not afraid to do that, you know, like my words, not his. You know, like it's cool that he can kind of just flirt with both and also be really good at both. And it sounds like you're kind of similar in that regard.
I like to think so.
Similar to Yuri. It's a good thing, I would think.
He's the granddaddy, man. He's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. He does a lot of cool shit. I hope you get a chance to shoot with him one of these times.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Maybe you can go inside the telescope and he'll just be like, you know, he'll unscrew a little thing and just be like, here, just put your camera on the back like that. And we'll shoot some crazy thing. When I had him on, I felt like such a feeble, you know, person who was so like dwarfed intellectually, because I realized, you know, it was like, I knew going into it, like, okay, I'm not, you know, I have a very big interest in this kind of stuff because I think it's very cool, but it's like you think that you're knowledgeable about something if the people you surround yourself with have no interest in that thing, and they sort of go to you as this like, well, ask Adam, like he's a geek about that, like maybe he'll know. And then you step into the ring with somebody who's like, no, see, I'm an astronomer, like this is my thing. And you realize like your questions are so, it's like looking back at that podcast, it's like I'm like, rock, you know, and he's like, yes, Adam, that's a rock, you know. It's like it's so you know, puny that I kept on asking him about, like, what I was trying to ask him was, do you ever get a chance to take images like that you see from the telescope? That's what I was like trying to get to, like,
right.
Do you ever sort of like take an image that you're looking at and then take that image like back to your home and just be like, oh, I'm just going to like edit this image that I took with the telescope? And that's how I should have asked him. But instead I was like, yeah. So like when you're taking photos, like with the telescope, and you know, it's just kind of like my stupidity of like, well, it's just a telescope. It doesn't necessarily mean you're taking images. And so I like, it was this funny, like barrier between us for a while where I was like, I just wanted to know if he gets a chance to take images with the telescope. And it's like, the reality is, well, you know, most of the time I'm just looking through the telescope and I'm like writing things down or gathering data. I'm not necessarily taking a photo. So yeah, like there's a couple, if you ever watch it, there's just a couple like, you know, funny parts where it's like, there's this disconnect in like understanding. And I think it's just because, well, yeah, cause you're a fucking idiot and because he's actually a brilliant scientist, and that was the difference.
Yeah. Us mortal humans.
Yeah.
No, his knowledge is ridiculous, man. I love that in a person where you can just ask them anything and they just have the answer there.
Right.
Casual.
Right. And uncolored as well. There's not necessarily that much opinion behind it, because he's just like, well, this is the answer. There's nothing else to say. Which in a Zoom dialogue is funny, because you get the impression that like, oh man, like you really know, like somebody that has that like worldview of like, yeah, it's this, and they give you like the 2-word answer, you go, holy shit, like you're, you know, pouring over with confidence, and I believe everything that you're saying to be true. But you know, on the other hand, it's like you need somebody to just like riff with you on the during the conversation. And so it was funny, because it's like, that's when I realized like, oh, you really don't know anything, Adam, because it's like I couldn't come up with the new questions because a lot of it was like, yes. And I was like, oh shit, okay. I guess that's that, you know, the mortal talking to the scientist, you know?
Yeah.
So given that it's the new moon, what's the weather like there? Are you going to try to shoot anything tonight?
It's pretty bad. I'm actually going to check, because Venus and Mercury are crossing each other I think it's today or maybe tomorrow.
Is today the day of the smiley face?
every day is the day of the smiley face, dude. That was so funny. The people it's actually getting quite good tomorrow, the weather.
Nice.
But yeah, when I posted that video about the smiley face in the groups on Facebook, like everyone was really pissed
that they thought that you did like the bait and switch. Is that why?
They thought I was doing a serious video about that conjunction.
Oh, okay.
I would like just not seeing the joke at all. Just wouldn't even open it because they were like just really angry.
Right. Like, Alyn, you were an ambassador for us. How could you, fall into the trap of...
And I was just trolling them quite hard as well in the comments. They were like, oh, you're so stupid. This is not real, fake news. And I was just like, no, you're stupid. You're going to miss out. Just like really winding these people up, man.
That's great.
Good fun with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if you guys think that the smiley face is cool, well, next year in October, the frowny face is coming. And that's going to be way cooler than the smiley face. Like, oh, wow. Yeah, the moon is going to do a rare thing. It's going to be upside down. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was
so you'll try to shoot tonight or tomorrow then?
Tomorrow's looking pretty good. So yeah, I'll try and get Venus and Mercury are like right next to each other. But both of them move pretty quickly. So it's like after a few days, they're quite far apart again. So
Right.
Fingers
Do you
crossed.
have any new gear, anything that you're
just
kind of still messing around with?
An 85 mil Stoney.
What is it? The 1.8? Is it?
Yeah. Just for the Noctilucent Clouds.
Okay.
Which happened over June and July.
Yeah, but you needed the 85. Is you think that's why choose that for that subject?
So the Noctilucent Clouds are always pretty low on the horizon. So it's quite nice to have a bit of a longer focal length to kind of fill the frame with the clouds. So I've got a 55 prime and a 135. I just wanted something in between.
Okay. Cool.
Apparently the cheaper f1.8 is better than the 1.4 when it comes to astrophotography. So
right,
saved me a pretty penny.
Well, and that's what everyone's keeps saying about the 20 mil as well. Get the 21.8.
Oh, the Sony.
Yeah, get the 21.8.
That's a really interesting lens.
The 20?
Oh, wait, not the Sigma? Is that what you said?
Well, so so I've been thinking about getting another. I've got a like a wide zoom 2.8, which is like it's pretty good. But I had been, and I use it on a tracker anyway, so it's almost like it doesn't even matter as much. But for time lapses, I want a 1.4 or a 1.8 or a 2.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of comments between like those kind of like between 14 and like 28 primes that are like the fastest lenses. And initially I was looking at like, I think it's what the Sony 24 1.4 or is it 20 1.4?
Yeah, 24 1.4.
And that just seemed like the obvious choice for time lapse. I mean, I can shoot at like 2000 ISO and still get like a pretty like well exposed Milky Way core. But there's a lot of people that are trashing that 24-1.4. They're talking about there's bad, like kind of all the cliches like coma and I don't know if it was vignetting, but like a lot of coma and chromatic aberration and things like that. And so people seem to be really talking about the 21.8 and they're like, look, it's not as fast, but it's just like the optics are like fucking perfect on that lens. So now I'm kind of maybe looking more at that one.
I'm going to be doing a video comparing the two of them quite soon. It is interesting. The 20 mil is actually like a little bit sharper than the 24. The 24 handles aberrations in the corners a little bit better, but it's like the 20 mil is not bad. It's so like is it nearly as good, but not quite as good. No, neither of them have any coma. The 24 has a little bit of chromatic aberration, which is like so easily fixable. And the 20 mil has a little bit of astigmatism. So the stars kind of look like they got little wings.
Right.
Which a lot of people call coma, but that's not what coma is. Coma is when the stars turn, they look like little comets basically in the corners.
Right.
when they have little wings, that's called astigmatism. And the 20 mil does have a bit of astigmatism, but what? I need to go through a bit more. I'm making the video right now, but what's really interesting is when you crop the 20 mil to the same focal length as the 24, you have almost the same image. Which is because the 20 mil is that little bit sharper.
Right.
So even though you're cropping the image, it just stays the same sort of detail and resolution as the 24. And because you're cropping the image, you're cropping off the bad stars and a lot of the vignetting. And you end up with like a very similar image. So it's like, it's really interesting, man. I mean, I need to go a bit more deep into the comparison, which I will in the video, but it's like, especially because it's cheaper, like a lot cheaper than the 24.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a no-brainer, man.
Yeah. So you like the 20 a lot then?
It's an amazing lens. I still think the 24 mil is the best lens that's ever made for landscape astro.
Really? The 24-1.4 Sony GM.
Yeah. But like the problem is most people don't enjoy the 24 mil focal length. I love it. Because if it's not wide enough, I just do a panorama. You get like so much more detail.
Right.
Most people just want to have a 20 mil and just do like one shot.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, because I always feel like I either want to go super wide. Like I used to, when I shot Nikon, I really enjoyed that, the 15-30, the Tamron. Because I always felt like that was just as good. Maybe not as good as like the Nikon 14-24. I don't know. I've never used that one, but that was a great lens. Even wide open. I can't remember where the hell I was going with this, but no, it's totally gone. Well, the point is I remember. So I really enjoyed shooting like very wide, like in that 15-20 kind of, I just want to get everything. Yeah. But I didn't often shoot at 24. It's like I would either go really wide or I'd be at like 35 or greater, because it's like, well, now I want more sky. Like I want small subject in big sky. And lately I've been shooting a lot of stuff at 70. I think partially due to some of the locations that I've had access to, where it's like something is far enough away to where like I can actually shoot like I can get that, which is kind of lately, I guess, like my favorite type of shot is like the big looming Milky Way, like behind the subject.
I've seen your recent shot with the tracker. It was really nice.
Thanks, man. Yeah. It's one of my favorites. And exactly for that reason, it was like so that's basically the back. So that's in Maine, like I was talking about earlier. That's like the backyard of my wife's like parents have just recently bought this like cottage there, and it's just like I got there and it's like facing south, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like tailor-made. And then that's like the actress who played the Wicked Witch of the West. Like that's her house, which is just kind of cool. Wow. I mean, she's dead now, but it's like her family's home. But it's that kind of that perfect situation where the house is like a good, 200 meters away or something. So when you use a 70, it's just perfect for it, because you still get the little tiny house in the big Milky Way. But yeah, I don't know. I'm in this phase where it's like, I love the really small thing with the huge night sky behind it. I like love that shit right now.
Yeah. It's nice, man. Change it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna have to cut you off.
Oh, no worries, man.
To bounce.
No worries. You gave me 2 hours, man. I really appreciate that. Yeah,
it's gone quick.
Yeah, dude. Sincerely, man. Thank you so much, and I'll look forward to seeing that video, the 20 versus the 24, because I'm like sweet. One of your people. Honestly.
I'm probably gonna end up making you even more confused before you watch the video.
Yeah. You probably will have even more gas. All right. Well, cool, man. Thanks so much. Yeah. Well, it's only a matter of time before that happens anyway. But yeah, dude, thanks so much, man. I really sincerely appreciate it.
Having me on.
Let's try to meet in person one of these days.
Yeah, man. I'll give you a shot when I'm in the US.
All right, dude. Take it easy, man.